So we all have this newfound time on our hands. Either you have more time or you're finding that you have to reallocate the time that you do have. Either way, we can all agree that this is a unique season that we are in. And one of the byproducts for me is that I've been listening to more new music, and I bet that's true of you too. And so I had a thought. We as worship leaders can still shepherd our congregations even during a quarantine. And one of the ways we do this is by being a theological dietitian. And if you don't know what that means, we're going to get into that in this video, and I'm going to show you how you can redeem your quarantine, so stick around. So like I said, with more people being forced to stay home, screen time is up. And I have found that I'm watching and listening to more music than ever before. And I was thinking, as worship leaders, this is a great way to spend our time. We can still shepherd our congregations even when we're not on stage. Maybe you've gone a while without adding any new songs to your current library. Or maybe you have a difficult time keeping up with all the new songs that come out on a regular basis. Either way, now is the time to be intentional with the time you've been given. If you guys know me at all, you know that it's a passion of mine to bring greater health to worship ministry. And I believe that healthy worship ministries begin with a healthy worship leader. A lot of worship leaders think they can grab a guitar or stand behind a piano and lead worship from stage, and that makes them a well-rounded, healthy worship leader. But I would argue that it takes a lot more than that. As worship leaders, you gotta know how to lead your team well. You gotta know how to deal with gear and technical issues. You gotta know how to be a pro at programs like Pro Presenter and Planning Center and CCLI. And as much as people say worship is not a performance, you better perform well or you're gonna hear about it, but that's a topic for another video. And that list is long enough. That's a lot for worship leaders to keep up with, but that's not the end of the list. Worship leaders also have to shepherd their congregations. So I wanted to talk to you today about the songs you choose to sing and how the practice of thoughtful song selection is directly tied to how you shepherd your congregation. But before we dive in, if at any time you feel like the content in this video is helpful to you, would you please like this video? And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. It would really help me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it. And just for fun, since we're talking about song selection, I have a question for you. What are the last 3 songs you taught your church, and a short reason why? Go ahead and put your answers in the comments below. I love seeing what other worship leaders are doing and why they're doing it. You can pause this video if you want, or I'll just wait. My light's flickering. That's not good. Like I said, I love seeing what other ministries are teaching their churches and why, and it also may spark some creativity for others who are also reading the comments. So how can we shepherd our people through song selection, or better yet, how can we better shepherd our people through song selection? Because I would argue that you are already shepherding your people, but you may not be doing the best that you can. There are all kinds of criteria that I take into account when I'm selecting songs for our church, and honestly, it can be overwhelming sometimes. So I started writing down a checklist of things I was looking for in songs, and I decided to put it into an official checklist that I could also share with you. So I have made the song selection checklist, and I wanted to give it to you as a free gift. Just click the link in the description and you will immediately get your free copy. And I challenge you to use this as a rubric for any new songs that you want to introduce to your church. At the beginning of this song selection checklist is actually a list from the book The Worship Pastor by Zach Hicks. I actually have a copy here somewhere. Worship Pastor. Can you see that? The Worship Pastor by Zach Hicks. In this book, he discusses the concept of the theological dietitian. So what is a theological dietitian? It's a metaphor for how we shepherd our congregation through the elements in our services. Hicks says that we must think of our jobs like a dietitian. So what does a dietitian do? He says this: a dietitian's job is to lead their client toward optimized health through regimented meal planning with nutritious foods in a balanced variety. Regimented meal planning, nutritious foods, balanced variety. He goes on to describe how dietitians think about what the body actually needs. And then they will think about and think through what their client will actually tolerate. And dietitians keep their clients away from foods that will harm them. Wow, if nothing else, there's a 3-step process for how any pastor can think about the elements that go into our worship services. We think about what our church needs, what they will tolerate, and what we need to avoid. Because the truth is, every element in our service is feeding the congregation something. Whether it be the sermon or the ordinances or the liturgy or the songs we sing, it all feeds our people. A quick way to think about this is sermons, sacraments, and songs. And while many worship leaders have input in all these areas, most of the time the worship leader's main responsibility is the music, is the song selection. So as worship leaders, if we're thinking like a theological dietitian, we need to start asking some new questions now. Which songs do we sing? How many songs do we sing? How often do we do new songs? We need to discuss this because if you're not putting the appropriate thought into these issues, you may not be the healthy worship leader that your church is needing right now. You may not be giving them a well-balanced meal for their spiritual growth. So I want to hone in on the area of developing a criteria for song selection, as I think it'll help us answer some of these questions. So the first question is this: is it singable? This should be the first question we ask, because in corporate worship, we want our people to sing. Now there are a lot of great worship songs out there, but not every song is written and should be sung in congregational worship. So as you're listening to new songs and you're thinking, hey, we could do this in our church, make sure first and foremost that it's singable. Number two, is this song theologically precise? Since theology is the study of God, we want to know God as He is revealed to us in Scripture. So the song that you're about to introduce to your church, does it talk about God as He is revealed in Scripture? Number three, does the music complement the lyrics? There was a trend a few years ago to take every song, slow it way down, and put it in a minor key. This was definitely a style choice, not a theological decision. And so at times we would sing a song that would be celebrating something great about the character of God, but be doing it in kind of a sad, mournful way, and it just didn't fit. Number four, is it aimed Godward? Now this is a response to those who would suggest that in corporate worship we never sing songs with first person pronouns. My light just went off. But the Psalms in Scripture help us see that we can sing about deeply personal things and still have it aimed Godward. Number five, is it in line with the gospel? Does this song lead people to ourselves, or does it lead us to Christ? And does it speak rightly about the Christian life, about atonement and justification? We need to make sure that the songs we choose are in line with the gospel. Number six, does it exclude or offend any demographic or cultures? For example, I'm a white male in my 30s and I like a certain style of music, but I lead worship in a church full of people who are different than me. I need to make sure that I don't just pick songs that I like, but I choose songs that are good for, or taste good, to keep up with the dietitian analogy. They're good for the whole body. Number seven, and this is a big one, does it bring balance to our current library of songs? Think about the last 10 songs you introduced to your church. What were the themes? Were they all celebration? Did any of them lead people to lament or confess? As we add new songs, we tend to keep adding only the songs that we really enjoy. So for example, I really enjoy big celebration songs, but I know I can't introduce only celebratory songs because then my congregation will be ingesting a very imbalanced meal. Number eight, is it a joy to sing? Now this does not mean celebration. People can sing songs about sin and confession and lament and suffering. They can sing those songs with joy because of the gospel. And number nine, and this should go without saying, but is there any outright heresy in the song? Now this is similar to the song being theologically precise or in line with the gospel. But when we're talking about heresy, we're talking about totally turning away from the gospel. Songs can be interpreted differently by different people and different leaders, and so some people may choose not to do a song because they don't think that it's precise enough, but that doesn't mean that the song is heresy. And the reason I bring this up is because sometimes we as worship leaders will make a stance on something, but then we project that stance on someone else as if our conviction should also be their conviction, and that's just not right. Number 10, and this is super practical, can your volunteers play it? You may love the song and it may hit all the checkpoints, but if your band can't play it, it could be a train wreck. Number 11, and this one is super important. I hope you're still here in the video to check it out. Is it right for the particular context that you're in? Different churches have different cultures and different taste of music. When I talk about this with other worship leaders, I like to talk about how I like to think of myself as a guest worship leader on the mission field. When you're a missionary, you study the people. You find out what they like and you stay away from things that they may consider disrespectful. It doesn't mean that those things are wrong, but these things might be wrong for that particular group. And sometimes this is true for our music. I've led worship in different ministries in the same town, and the context and the culture musically was totally different. But on the flip side, and this is number 12, our last point, does the song stretch our people? There's a balance to strike here. No one wants to be that worship leader who just makes everyone mad doing songs they know no one will like just because they can. But you also have a responsibility to grow your people. People naturally turn inward on themselves. So singing music that they are uncomfortable with from time to time can help stretch them to become better worshipers. Well, so that is the whole list, and I know it's a lot. You may be thinking, Jimmy, I gotta think through all of these things before I can add a song to my library. I know not every song is gonna check every box on this list, but what this list does is it gives us a framework to make sure that we are really shepherding our people through the songs that we put in front of them. When you think about it, when we select songs for the church, we are giving them words that they will worship their Creator with. What an amazing responsibility that is. We must take it seriously. Well, that's it for today's video. Remember, your people are in need of a balanced diet. This is going to help them become more healthy worshipers. And it is your responsibility to make sure they are getting the best foods possible. And by foods, I mean the words that we're giving them to sing back to their Creator. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope the content was helpful for you. I hope it helped turn some gears and make you think about how you can be better at the craft of selecting songs for your church. I really believe that when we do this, we're making better worshipers out of God's people. If you would like to know how Hey Worship Leader can partner with you to bring greater health to your worship ministry, please reach out to me. You can email me. My email is jimmy@heyworshipleader.com. And if you would like to get more information about Hey Worship Leader, you can always go to heyworshipleader.com. You can read about mentor coaching, where I come alongside worship leaders for a season to help them through the many aspects of worship ministry. And then we also have worship workshops, and you can go online and see the upcoming events, which it's kind of hard to have any upcoming events right now with everything going on, but soon we will get those back up and running. Thank you for watching the video. Thank you for subscribing, and I will see you in the next video.